sommes dans le quartier de Soho. C'est un quartier magnifique. Personnellement, c'est mon quartier préféré de New York, qui a été énormément développé sur les dernières années. C'est des bâtiments qui sont plutôt bas, plutôt industriels. C'est un quartier très artistique, très mode. Et on a la chance aujourd'hui de pouvoir visiter un appartement grâce à un de mes anciens collègues de Manhattan. Donc, je vais vous emmener en immersion avec moi, vous allez voir, ça va être magnifique. Allez, je vous emmène avec moi. Hello et bienvenue dans ce fameux appartement dont on vous a parlé dans le quartier de Soho. Je vais vous montrer tout ça. Alors, on a une belle partie salle à manger. J'adore particulièrement la bibliothèque avec la fameuse petite échelle qui a été entièrement rénovée par les propriétaires actuels. Et ensuite, on a la cuisine. Il y a des rangements un peu partout. Ça aussi, c'est génial parce qu'on manque quand même assez souvent de place à Manhattan. Donc, on a ici une cuisine qui a été aussi entièrement refaite. Et puis, on a un espace nuit avec dressing, salle de bain qui a aussi été refaite. On a ici donc un petit dressing. Et puis après, on a la chambre qui est super sympa, assez lumineuse, je devrais dire, et assez grande aussi d'ailleurs, parce que les espaces sont relativement petits d'habitude.
What was your question again?
Can you quickly tell me how the market is doing since COVID?
Overall, the market's down significantly because during COVID, interest rates were hovering around 3%.
Okay.
And since COVID, they spiked up to almost 7.5%, which really put the brakes on for a lot of buyers. We're seeing a lot less contracts signed. If you compare it to 2019, we're actually more along the same playing field as we were then, because 2020 and 2021 were kind of outliers. They were like amazing years because the people had more money. They, the overall stock markets did really well, and I think people just wanted more space in general.
I think most of the real estate markets were kind of the same. In France, it was also the same, and now we're also slowing a little bit down. And also, I had this question about the interest rates. I mean, in France, they're around 2.45, and it's already
That's
huge.
pretty good.
Yeah, but for us, it's already so huge.
Right now, we're at 5.25, so
Okay,
5.25.
it went down.
It's come down a good amount.
Who are most of your clients? Are they people who are buying for themselves, just secondary homes, or is it most investors want to put it on the rental market afterwards?
A lot of people in New York City rent. I think it's over 60% or almost 70% of people who live in New York City are renting. Because rents are so high, a lot of people that are here for 5+ years, they want to transition into buying. Because traditionally, New York City real estate has done really well. We average appreciations like 5% a year. Obviously, it depends on neighborhoods and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty safe investment, and we're not impacted as greatly when major global events occur. So you have investors who want to park their cash in a safe spot, have a return that might not be as great as it would be in other places, but it's safe. And then you also have a lot of buyers who are looking for second homes, spend some time in New York, might have family here, or just love Broadway shows and don't want to stay in a hotel. There's also a lot of inventory, right? There's a lot of different types of apartments. It's kind of cool because there is something for everybody to a certain degree.
Yeah, it's not only like one kind of apartment.
Yeah. It's not like townhouses, or like like a suburban neighborhoods where it's like you get a house.
Yeah, you have the same size and the same.
Exactly.
Yeah. And what is the profile of the investors you have? Are they people that live here or not at all? What kind of jobs?
We have investors from Asia. Some of them buy buildings. We have other investors that live on the Upper East Side and they own, investment properties in Brooklyn. Some investors are, on the West Coast of the United States. So it's definitely a mix.
Okay.
I think New York City just attracts a lot of people. In terms of volume, like what's the most popular type of investor? It would be, somebody that's looking for like a condo. So they'll buy like $1 million apartment or somewhere in that range. because that's also kind of the sweet spot between purchase price and where the rent will be.
Yeah.
Average rent is, I think, like $4,100 a month or something.
Okay.
So you'll buy a place around $750,000, maybe $1 million, and then you'll be around that price point.
So that's actually interesting, because how we work to calculate if it's interesting or not, we actually take the price where to reimburse the loan. Mm-hmm. And then we have the rents that I can ask to someone, but I have all the rest of the charges too, like the building fees, everything.
Yeah.
When I take off my rents, all these kind of charges, then I have like my cash flow. Is that the same here? I mean, do you have on this kind of apartments, you're saying like 1 bedroom, can you have some cash flow, or is that difficult because of the building fees and everything?
You can definitely have cash flow. What I say to my investors is if they're looking to cash flow immediately, then they should put down at least 30% of the purchase price. If they put down less than 30%, they should expect to lose a little bit of money in like the first 2 years. Yeah. The good thing is that rents are pretty much guaranteed to always go up. And your mortgage payment is fixed, and your real estate taxes and your common charges, so which are your other building fees, are relatively fixed. They only go up a small amount each year.
How long are the loans?
Our typical loan is 30 years. And then you can choose different products based on that 30-year amortization period. So you can do a fixed rate loan. So you'll take that, whatever the rate is today, like for example, 5.25, and you'll have that for 30 years. Yeah. You can always refinance, obviously, or you'll do an adjustable rate mortgage, and it's called a 7-1 or a 10-1, and then you're locked in for that initial period, which is 7 years or 10 years, at a lower rate. And then once that period expires, then it fluctuates. Yeah. Or you refinance again.
If I want to buy an apartment here, how is it going for me? I just go on website and I find an apartment that can probably suit me. I call you. How is it actually going?
The real estate market is pretty crazy because we have so many different buildings and neighborhoods. So it's pretty hard for like one person to navigate necessarily. So most of the time what happens is, like, when you first start your search, you'll inquire through a landing page, whether it be StreetEasy or Zillow, or even a brokerage's page like Compass, and then you'll be introduced to a respective agent. For the most part, as a buyer, you'll sit down and have coffee with that agent. They'll sort of pitch themselves to you and the services they provide and give you an idea of what's ahead. It's never really smooth sailing, and you want like an experienced captain to be there to help navigate you through. Essentially, I'm like their guardian. Like, I'm watching out for the client and being like, watch out! And, like, protecting them from potential like hazards that are along the way. And also advising them on different loan products and recommending attorneys or contractors, a whole slew of different service individuals. To be honest though, with me, a lot of my clients end up becoming friends because the process is pretty long. You'll typically look between like 3 months and maybe a year, and then it takes a little period of time to close, and you're together a lot. Yeah. You'll get drinks or coffee or lunch and dinner, and so you get to know each other, and then after you close, it's not like you want the relationship to end. And I just think it's good to have like the broker, because if somebody's like, oh, I want to renovate because I'm expecting a kid, or I want to combine 2 apartments, they can always call me and I'll come over and we can talk through something like that. Yeah.
I mean, you help them get an apartment even if it's in another office, and so you go with them at the showings.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you negotiate after with the other agent.
Essentially, the way that it works is like all of the brokers are part of one community. It's called the REBNY, Real Estate Board of New York. We're all in that network, and we don't necessarily work together if we're on opposite sides of the deal, but we'll negotiate with each other, and we have like guidelines that are set for like ethical boundaries and whatnot. So it's not like the wild, wild west.
Okay. Yeah. And so you also share the commission with the other broker?
Exactly.
Okay. And what is usually the percentage of commission on, I don't know, an apartment here in New York?
So typically it's 6% of the sale price. When a broker represents a buyer and of course the broker represents the seller, it's split 50-50. So each party gets 3% of the sale price.
When someone has an offer agreement and then until he has the keys, how long is that taking?
A condo is going to be a minimum of about 30 to 45 days. Okay. That's if you're purchasing cash. If you're financing, then you're typically looking at like 60 to 75 days. So like 2.5 months. And that's the shortest period. If you are buying a co-op, the process tends to be drawn out a little bit more because the buyer has to be interviewed. And so co-ops also go through their purchase application more with a fine-tooth comb. And that can be between 3 and 4 months.
For you, what is the best neighborhood to invest or to live in Manhattan?
It's hard to choose one neighborhood specifically because what I normally say is downtown is extremely popular. But by choosing one neighborhood downtown, which is like south of 14th Street, for example, the neighborhoods are almost too small to pigeonhole yourselves into one of those. So Greenwich Village, East Village, Lower East Side has become very popular. Civic Center. I mean, those are all medium-sized neighborhoods, but there's also smaller ones like Little Italy, Nolita, NoHo. Those are all safe places to invest. They're also extremely in high demand. So the dynamic is very good for an investor.
And what is the average price per square meters here, whole Manhattan? Do you have like this average price or not? Or is it more by neighborhood?
It's more by neighborhood. I think the median sale price in Manhattan is around 1.1 million. Condos tend to be more expensive on a price per square foot basis. But if I had to just give a off-the-cuff number, I would probably say around 1,100 per square foot.
And then I had a question about how is it actually going for a client when he makes an offer, it's accepted. So how is it going here? How is it happening to a client?
You have about a week to 2 weeks. And then once that period passes, then the buyer will sign the contract and they'll deposit 10% of the purchase price into an escrow account.
How is it increasing over the years? I mean, is it always in like...
Is it always appreciating?
Yeah.
So the short answer is no.
Okay.
You know, just like anything else, there are ups and downs. But over the last 20 years, if we average out the year-over-year appreciation, I think it's like 7.14 in Manhattan, which is pretty significant. If you sort of shrink that down to a shorter period and you're looking at like the 10 or the 15 year, then we're more in like the 3% range. Because we had a little bit of a dip in 2016, 17, 18, and 2019 was really a recovery year. We started coming back up, and then 2020, obviously, in 2021, we skyrocketed.
So it wasn't like the normal.
Well, I think we've had a lot more ups and downs over the past 10 years that might skew how the numbers sort of look. But over the 20-year average, which is probably a better metric to look at, just to sort of blend everything out, it's like 7%.
Do you have anything else to share about, I don't know, the real estate market here? Or?
If you're curious about buying real estate in New York City, definitely find a broker that you think you'll get along with, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them, and do some window shopping. You know, when you're online, you're looking at through Zillow or StreetEasy, don't just look at the pictures, but also look at the street view, because a lot of people forget that like the streetscape and the surrounding area is really important, right? What I always say is that there are 3 fundamentals to real estate, the 3 L's, and that's light, location, and layout. So the natural light the apartment receives, the location, whether it has close proximity to subways or maybe it's next to a firehouse, so obviously it's not as desirable. And then layout, like you don't want a place that has like a really, really long hallway that's just wasting space, or might have tiny little bathrooms and big bedrooms. It's just not proportioned well.
Et bien la team Saving, on arrive au terme de cet épisode Investir avec les Saving à Manhattan. J'espère que cette édition vous a plu. Si vous avez d'autres questions, à nous les mettre en commentaire. On y répondra avec Val avec grand plaisir. Et aussi, vous pouvez nous dire en commentaire quelles sont les prochaines destinations que vous aimeriez voir. Et si vous avez aimé aussi, n'hésitez pas à vous abonner, ça nous aide toujours. Je vous dis à très bientôt.
J'avais envie de rigoler.